Welcome to Sense of Style. I'm Stuart. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm doing a collaboration video with a fragrance house called Riiffs. So I was sent 4 fragrances. 3 of them are from Riiffs, and then the 4th is from a house called Nusuk. And I guess they do their marketing together, so I will reviewing all 4 of them. Now, I didn't pay for the fragrances, and I understand the cynicism, which is totally understandable if I'm reviewing fragrances that I didn't pay for. However, not all collaboration videos are the same. About a year ago, a fragrance house that you will know of contacted me to do this kind of thing. And after working with them for a little bit, I realized they weren't very professional, and I didn't follow up. These guys have been very, very different. They contacted me, very professional, and I trust them. Now, I did cheat. They sent me 4 fragrances. I wanted to open them all on camera, but one of them was an oud fragrance. And if you've watched your channel, you'll know how much I love oud. So I opened it 2 days ago, tested it thoroughly. And so, yeah, that one won't be open on video. The other 3 will be. This hopefully will be an enjoyable experience. Fragrance number 1, this is Al Mukhtalif Signature, and this one is from the house of Nusuk. Presentation is kind of cool. The bottle itself is fairly heavy. You've got a card in there. And the cap is a magnetic cap, although this cap is not very heavy itself. The atomizer is fairly standard. Now, I opened this because it is an oud fragrance, and it is an ambery oud fragrance, and it looked very similar to Ombre Nomade by Louis Vuitton, which I have tested extensively because I have a sample of it, and it is one of my favorite fragrances of all time. So I tested this quite a bit, even though the notes are slightly different. Now, the notes on Fragrantica, I don't trust them in this particular case. Normally, Fragrantica's notes are fairly reasonable. They open with citrus, and then they've got musk, oud, and amber in the base. And I get the citrus element here. There is a fresh neroli that you get in the open, but there is no rose listed on Fragrantica. However, I got a little card from Nusuk, and I'm going to go over the notes that they have here, and it is a lot of rose, especially in the open. Notes I've been given are bergamot neroli, rose, oud amber, sandalwood, and jasmine. The heart is cedar, rose, oud, sandalwood, lemon, jasmine, patchouli, and the base is vanilla, musk, oud. You can see that there is oud on all 3 levels on the fragrance, and it certainly is a heavy, strong oud fragrance. There's amber mentioned a couple of times in this, and you can see rose is in the heart and in the open. And in the opening of this, it is a very rose-heavy oud. I'm talking probably the first 10 or 15 minutes. And I was a little disappointed because Ombre Nomade has a lot of rose, but it's not a rose-heavy oud necessarily. However, after about 15 minutes, this settled in, and it became very, very similar to Ombre Nomade. That is my sample of Ombre Nomade. I've had it for about 3 years. I am super careful with how much I use it. I've tested the performance. I know the scent really, really well. And I think in this particular case, what you're getting is like what happens with Armaf, in that the opening, the first 5 or 10 minutes or so, is a little bit different, and then it takes time to settle down, and then it turns pretty much into the fragrance that they are cloning. Now, I'm not sure if that was their intention here or if it just ended up that way, but the similarities are amazing. This is an extrait de parfum, so the amount of fragrance oil in this is a ton, and I had to test that. And let me just say, very clearly, after 16 hours, I could still smell it on my skin, which is very similar to the results that I get with Ombre Nomade. So in terms of performance, this thing really is beast mode. And that's an important thing here, because normally with a lot of modern clones, it's the projection that is really strong. The longevity does not tend to be. In this particular case, this has a ton of projection, and it is also extremely long-lasting. The extrait de parfum description for this is real. Fragrance number 2 is Prive Platinum by Riiffs, and I'm going to open this right now on camera and give it a try. Here's the box. Taking it out. Whoa, that is very nice. This is an extremely heavy bottle, and I'm taking the cap. Oh, the cap is heavy too. Presentation, I must say, and sometimes the presentation does not always come across in the video. Everything feels very solid, very attractive, and very heavy. Now I'm going to test it out. Okay, this is clearly very, very similar to Silver Mountain Water. And the funny thing is, that is another fragrance. It used to be, if you watch the channel regularly, you know it used to be my signature scent. And I have a couple of clones of Silver Mountain Water, and I have to compare this to the other two clones, and I'll get back to you. But my initial impression is that this is a greener, fresher version of Silver Mountain Water than my other two. My other two tend to be, so far anyway, a little bit sweeter, a little bit warmer, but this particular one I think is fresher and probably would be better for warmer weather, but I will test the two of them out and I'll get back to you. Okay, it's 5.5 hours later and I've had a chance to test this pretty extensively, and I tested it against my two clones, especially the main one that I have, which is Afnan's Supremacy in Heaven, and I've had this for quite some time, and I really do like it. This one is normally about 6 hours, and I would say this one is probably going to go a little bit longer than that. It does seem stronger on my hand at this point than Supremacy in Heaven, so I think this is a pretty solid clone. My guesstimate would be 7 to 8 hours in terms of longevity. Projection is very good with both, so I don't have any issues with them. Presentation, this one wins hands down. And this one, I think, I don't know if it's just my imagination, but it feels slightly less synthetic than this. But you have to understand, I've always liked this clone, but I think if I had to buy one, and if I had to recommend one, I would recommend this one, especially if you prefer the fresh elements of it. So it is a bit of a musky fragrance. There's some green elements. Green accords are normally quite high. And then you've got a little bit of blackcurrant fruitiness. The fruitiness takes longer to come through in this one than this. But overall, this one is definitely a little bit better. And I think the presentation really I mean, this is a really nice bottle. And I wish you guys could get a chance to see it and hold it and appreciate the difference. It is heavy. The cap is heavy. It's really nicely designed. And yeah. Fragrance number 3, this is Imperial Noir by Riiffs. And I have a pretty good idea as to what this is, given how it is packaged. It's certainly packaged to look something very similar to Jean Paul Gaultier's Le Mal, Le Parfum. But I will take this plastic off and I'll get back to you. Okay, so I like the presentation one here too. This is kind of a matte black finish. It actually looks kind of sharp. And then you just pull this up, and then you get the Imperial Noir. Okay, there's the bottle. This is actually very attractive. It's very nice. Now the cap. Now this is heavy. It's not as heavy as the Prive Platinum cap, which is very, very solid. And I am going to put this on and test it right now and see if it is in fact a Jean Paul Gaultier Le Mal, Le Parfum clone. Okay, I've had a chance to compare Imperial Noir by Riiffs with Jean Paul Gaultier's Le Mal, Le Parfum. I've had them both on for the last 5 hours, trying to compare performance and just to see how similar they are. And there are some similarities. However, I don't believe this is a clone. I believe it's a similar fragrance, but not a clone. And I don't think it was meant to be a clone, because if you look at the accords, you can see that the aromatic accord here has been moved up. So it's a little bit more herbal, a little bit more mature, and the vanilla accord has been moved down as compared to Le Mal, Le Parfum. So this is not quite as sweet. It is more aromatic, and it is definitely more mature. And if you look at the notes for this, this has patchouli in the heart. Now that's usually the main focus. And in this particular case, you can really pick up the patchouli here. It's an aromatic fragrance still. There's a lot of lavender in this as well, but I pick up patchouli more than anything else. So there's a darker, a little bit more dense quality to it. This is sweeter and brighter and more youthful. But I do think that, for older gentlemen, this one could be interesting, and especially if you like patchouli. Performance of this so far, I mean, I've had it on for, 5 hours, 15 minutes. Very, very solid performance. No problems there. Projection is great. Longevity is great. Now, I will say one other thing about this. It is possible that as it macerates, it will become more similar to Le Male Le Parfum. But that, that's neither here nor there. That is guesswork. I don't know that for sure. I'm only saying that because of the presentation, the fact that they're trying to make it look like Le Male Le Parfum. But even if they're not, even if that's not what it turns into, it is still a pleasant fragrance, but it's just different. Finally, we have Goodness Oud Blanc. This is by Riiffs. I am going to take the packaging off, and this is like a really heavy box. And the presentation here looks really nice. Okay, there we go. Now, it is white, which usually white means unisex. I do believe this is a unisex fragrance, and I am going to put it on and see what I get here, and I will get back to you. Okay, I've had a chance to try Goodness Oud Blanc by Riiffs for about 5 hours now, and I will say this. The opening is the nicest opening of all the fragrances I've tried. It is very different, though. It is a salty, ambery opening, and it's fantastic. Now, the fragrance does change quite a bit from the beginning to the dry down. It gets creamier. So basically, the notes are ozonic notes, salt, pralines, and rose in the mid, and then amber extreme, vanilla, and patchouli in the base. So it gets sweeter and creamier as the fragrance goes along. Once those ozonic notes have gone away, that lighter element, it does get creamier. It does get, I think, a little bit more feminine. And I think to a certain extent, this is either a hardcore unisex fragrance. I think it leans slightly feminine. And important to know, there is absolutely no oud in this. It's very common for Middle Eastern fragrance houses to use oud in the names. Oud is very popular there. Performance here is pretty solid considering you've got a lot of ozonic notes in the beginning. So the projection is, I would say, moderate, but you're dealing with ozonic notes. So you're not expecting a ton of projection. The longevity, again, and that is the one consistency for all 4 fragrances I've talked about, which is very counter to what we're used to from Middle Eastern clones. The longevity is very solid in all of the fragrances. So overall, had a good time. Took a long time, a lot of testing. But yeah, the fragrances are pretty solid. I like the fact that they were very long lasting, which is weird. Weird for a clone house. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys.